So in the modern world, a trout that reaches monstrous proportions has most likely had numerous encounters with anglers. You don't get grandpa status without seeing a few hooks in your mouth. Not only are these fish wary of all predators, including you, but they found the perfect feeding and hiding ground to keep them safe for years. Your best bet at catching one of these trophies is a combination of three things: timing, location, and scouting. With a little persistence and knowing where to look for these beasts, you will have the tools needed to land that trout of a lifetime. When searching for these trophies, you must have the mindset of a hunter. You'll spend more time tracking and observing than you will fishing. But when you do find that once-in-a-lifetime trophy trout, it'll be worth all the hard effort and persistence. What time of year? There are times of the year and times of the day that are more productive to hunt down large trout. Brown trout spawn in the fall and are actively aggressive during this time. Rainbows spawn in the spring, so locating them will be easier as they are on the move. Typically, the big brown season will last late into November. Springtime is great for both, as the rainbows are spawning, the browns are looking to put on more weight for the breeding season, and during the springtime, you have higher waters, so the trout are going to feel safer because they have more depth to move in and out of cover. This can also happen on rainy days when the rivers are not entirely mud, but the water is rising. Seasonal hatches also play a significant role in the larger trout coming out to feed. The Mother's Day caddis hatch, a large salmon fly hatch, or even the world-renowned green drake hatch are all great timing opportunities to track down larger trout, as they are actively feeding during these astronomically sized hatches. Pressure also plays into your timing when tracking down these elusive trout. During the busy months of the year, when the waters are heavily fished, these trout learn to hide during prime daylight and forage during low light times. Early morning, dusk, and into the night are also great times for these elusive monsters. The low light conditions give them cover. Cloudy days are also great because the fish are tricked into thinking nighttime is coming, so they're more likely to come out and feed. Locations for large trout. When looking for large trout, keep in mind that big fish live in big water. These can be lakes, reservoirs, large rivers, tailwaters with consistent flows, and large amounts of sustenance are great places to start your journey. Rivers that feed into large bodies of water are also prime areas to hunt down monster trout. Tributaries to the Great Lakes continuously bring in record trout year after year. If you're interested in our top 25 destinations for chasing down large trout, I recommend checking out our article on the Discover portion of our website. But here's a quick run through of 10 of these 25 locations where you can hunt down large trout. Roscoe, New York. Roscoe in New York is nicknamed Trout Town, USA. This is a launching point for the hollowed rivers of the Catskill Mountains, so you know that you're going to be in for some pretty cool catches. The Beaverkill and the Willamette rivers both flow through this place. So if you're looking to catch some brown or rainbow trout, this could be your spot. Missoula, Montana. This is a small laid-back college town, and yet trout fishing here is a huge deal. You can fish the Bouldery Blackfoot or the Bitterroot, both of which end up emptying into the Clark Fork. Montana has a variety of different trout species, and you'll find many of them all in the bodies of water that flow through this area. West Yellowstone, Montana. There are a variety of rivers that run through Yellowstone. You'll find the Firehole River, the Gibbon River, and Slough Creek. You also have the Gallatin and Henry's Fork, which also boasts plenty of trout to find. State College, Pennsylvania. Most commonly, you'll find large brown trout here. Surrounding this area, you're going to find places such as Carlisle, Lock Haven, and Altoona. Spring Creek also runs through this town. Now, there isn't much here as it's a smaller town, but you're going to be able to find some pretty big brown and rainbow trout here. Grayling, Michigan. The Au Sable River flows over the bottom side of this town, providing fly fishers with the ability to find some decent-sized trout. Trout fishing in America is a big thing, but people travel from all over to come to Grayling for this reason. Glenwood Springs, Colorado. The Crystal River, the Frying Pan, the Roaring Fork, and the Colorado River can all be accessed through Glenwood Springs. With some of the most consistent trout streams located here, you're sure to catch something you can be proud of. Mountain Home, Arkansas. People are catching 30-pound fish every year here, thanks to the White River and the Norfolk rivers that run through. You can fish in this area year-round, and you're going to find some of the biggest non-migratory brown trout in the entire world in this area. Asheville, North Carolina. If you hike into the Smokies, which is just a short journey from Asheville, you'll find some of the best mountainside streams to catch large trout. The southern Appalachians are known for their brook trout. The South Holston in Tennessee. This has been hailed as arguably one of the best trout rivers in the southeastern portion of the United States. Close by, you're going to find towns such as Kingsburg and Watauga. You're sure to find plenty of trout here, and some pretty large ones at that. Green River, Utah. Floating out of the Flaming Gorge Reservoir, you're going to find some large rainbow, some large browns, and some large lake trout. Some estimates show that there are nearly 20,000 trout per mile in the first 7 miles below the dam. But the fly fishing here is a little bit challenging because the water is crystal clear, so your presentation has to be spot on to catch one of these bad boys. For the full list of our top 25 places to fly fish in America, check out our Discover tab on drifthook.com. Scouting for large trout. As soon as you've chosen your location, you now need to get into the mindset of sight fishing rather than location casts. And the only way to sight fish is to do the right amount of scouting in the most optimal places that hold large trout. Large trout are territorial and will chase off smaller trout for prime feeding lanes and are always looking for danger. Always. The best way to bag one of these monsters is to be pretty much invisible to them. You must be stealthy as a ninja, and you gotta be able to sneak up if you're gonna bag this type of reward. Start by observing from a great distance away from the prime holding grounds that you're trying to fish. Observe from high overlooks or bluffs, behind trees, or down low behind grass or a sagebrush. A great technique that you'll see on the Uncompahgre River in Colorado or in the Pyramid Lakes in Nevada is to bring your own ladder. Yes, a ladder. But keep it a reasonable distance from where you're going to be fishing before you set up and post up to scout out those monster trout. Now spend a good amount of time viewing from a high distance above the water. You're going to be able to pick up silhouettes of larger trout from this vantage point. When scouting in prime rivers and tributaries, large trout usually need large pools for their homes. Deep pools provide the necessary overhead cover to survive. Predators cannot see them, and the water temperature stays cool. These pools are relatively deep, close to 6 to 8 feet or more. They're typically surrounded by cover like branches, bushes, down trees, rock formations, or in areas with undercut banks. Fish like anything that can keep them covered from predators. Ideally, the currents in these pools offer a feeding lane. Now look for pools with back eddies that bring in consistent sources of food. Large trout typically are most active in low light, early morning, late evening, and night, as I've said a few times before. Now when the light is low, they're going to make their way into shallower water to hunt smaller trout and other large meals. In the evenings, these monsters are going to move out of that resting pool towards the shallow waters of the banks to begin their feeding. The cool thing about rainy and overcast days is that this is going to trick these trout into thinking that it's later than it is, and they're going to come out of their hiding spot a little bit earlier to fill their bellies. Large rainbows have similar feeding behaviors, but they also feed actively throughout the day in highly oxygenated water, such as riffles and pool inlets. If a dominant trout's home pool is undisturbed, it can spend its entire life in that one area, unless it's going to be migrating for colder water or unique feeding opportunities. Now this can be commonly found in tailwaters like the Uncompahgre River, the San Juan, or the Frying Pan. On these rivers, the majority of the trophy trout have been picked out of the same 20-yard stretch. Now rainbow trout feed throughout the day and will move out of these pools for highly oxygenated riffles. On rivers that have more activity or pressure from fishermen, look for lies by rocks close to the edge of the river or undercut banks. Large trout can lie in these areas knowing they have an easy exit to deeper water if something comes for them. Also look for narrow feeding channels. Nature has taught them not to go out of their comfort zone as only danger awaits. When you have located a prime location, don't rush in to fish it. Take your time and watch the water. Keep a reasonable distance and focus on the section of water that seems like it's going to hold that trophy trout. Now depending on your angle, you might have water glare, and if this is the case, change your location to avoid that glare, so you can have a clean viewing lane of the area that you're targeting. Look for slicks in the water that's going to give you a clear image of the depth below. Overcast conditions can help tremendously for this. Also, a pair of polarized sunglasses with the correct lenses for the light conditions. I recommend brown or copper shaded lenses, as these are going to help with low light conditions. Now, if you have the opportunity to scout out on numerous days, try scouting locations at different water flows. You might find out that these larger trout are more active during different CFS conditions. I like to hike sections of water on different days, keeping track of the CFS, and if I see movement in a prime holding area, I will note it in my log. It can also be helpful if you have a GPS. Then you can mark your location and come back to it during prime feeding times.